You are listening to Danny on What the Heck podcast. This is the place where I share my experience, knowledge, and skills. Special guest all the way from America, which I haven't actually asked you what part of America you're from. You have to tell us, Darick.
Utah right now, but Utah, Nevada, and Oklahoma.
Now, isn't that where all the Mormons live?
Yep, deal with them all day, every day.
Brilliant, mate. Now, I'm just curious, if it is where the Mormons live, do they have bikes and they bike around all the time? Because that's the only time I see a Mormon in New Zealand, where I am. They literally are always on bikes.
Yep, they're on
So,
bikes and a Ford Focus.
wow, how about that? Right, so I've got you along, and we've got a format, which if you're not familiar, what we do to our listeners, we have 12 questions with What the Heck, and I've just got a pack of about 100 different questions, and I shuffle them and I grab out 12, and then I ask our guests these random questions. So even though I don't know what the question is going to be next, and let's see what the first one. If you could live anywhere in the world, where would it be?
Anywhere in the world, probably Ireland. I would go back
Ireland.
and yeah, yep. That's a tough one
Why?
because I love mountains and I love oceans. I live in Utah. I've hiked all over. Um, I do love oceans and forests, but my heritage is a lot of Celtic. Great great grandparents were Scottish and Irish, so I
So do you
would.
have bagpipes and kilt?
I do have a kilt, no bagpipes.
I'm not going to
Bagpipes
ask
are one of
anything
those
about
things
the kilt.
nobody wants to hear a piper that's not good. It's just that's oh so
Yeah. I used to
yeah.
actually do a website for a guy who used to actually make the bags, Galloway
Oh,
bagpipes, they were called, and it
okay.
was quite an art. But he
Oh,
was,
those are
when I was,
massive work of art.
oh, it is, he's really passionate about, but after talking to him and getting to know about the product, I could certainly see why they have to be passionate about to actually do them. But the different sizes and how to look after your bag, because it's made out of, it's obviously something like a leather.
It's like a sheep's bladder or
Ugh.
something like that. Yeah.
Do they make vegan ones?
I'm sure they do. They make
Yeah.
electronic ones that actually sound pretty good.
Oh, all right. Yeah,
Couple bands I
YouTube, is
like
it?
to be using.
Now, as I said, these questions are random, so I don't know if this question really applies, but you just said that you like hiking and tramping. So how many pairs of shoes do you own? It's probably more catered to the female variety, but I'm curious now.
Oh Lord. There's a story that goes along with that one.
Cool.
When I first got married, my ex-wife now would tease me because I always said if you had more than three pairs of shoes, and the men I was Jehovah's Witness, so if you had more than three
Yep.
pairs of shoes, you were probably gay because a man
Right.
should only have a pair of basketball shoes, a pair of meeting shoes, and a pair of work boots, and that's it.
Right.
Well, now the kind of work I do and the outdoors I do, quick count, I probably have 20 pairs of shoes or 25.
Wow. You're
Got
not a hoarder by any chance? You don't keep them and never throw them out?
no, I have
Yep.
like three or four different pairs of cowboy boots. I've got, a couple pairs of Doc Martens, a couple pairs of basketball shoes, and
Yeah.
like six different pairs of hiking boots. So yeah, they're not all
Yeah.
when they wear out, I throw them away, but I'm kind of hard on shoes too. So, but yeah, I
I went away
definitely
at
get
Christmas
some.
time. I went away at Christmas time and I left a pair of my everyday shoes up with my partner's family, and I'm hoping to reunite with them next Christmas. But now I'm sort of like finding, oh, it's quite handy. I've got an extra pair of shoes laying around that I stopped wearing but didn't throw out. All right, mate. Here you go. Here's your opportunity. If you ruled the world, what would you day? Oops, sorry, I reread that. If you ruled the world, what would you change on day one?
If I ruled the world,
Yeah,
uh,
big time.
I, I'd get rid of. I think borders. Borders would be gone.
Bored.
Yeah,
That'd be quite
there's
cool.
no reason. I mean, I don't know. I think from an American perspective, it just makes me upset. Um,
Mm.
just because it's, there's always the races. It just seems to breed racism or hate and things like that. There's nothing that ever happens good because of a border. So if everybody just got
No.
together as one race, one human race, then it'd be just better.
Well, that I was watching the is it Palatines? Have I said that right? And I was watching on TikTok, and they were showing them trying to shoot the planes down with their as they flew into their airspace, and they've got these. They look like
Oh,
these amazing. Well, it's not amazing, but they're all bullets, and they're flying through the sky. It's like watching Biscetti trying to shoot these helicopters down, and it was just like, oh my goodness, it's like an arcade game, but yeah, hard to comprehend that people live life like that and think it's acceptable that they can shoot and kill and yeah,
yeah,
yeah, all because of land and rights and it's a messy world we live in. But the end is near. Do not worry, my friend. This is a sign of the
just around the
time.
corner.
It's just we're going to get there sooner or later, and then we're going to live in a paradise earth, and we'll be able to sit there and pet lions. Have you heard that story before, mate?
Oh yeah. For me,
We'll
it was
get
a
into that.
tiger though.
Right, who knows you the best?
Oh, who knows me the best right now? My grandpa passed away a few years. It would have been him. So the one
Oh,
that's left would be uh, Rachel, my current girlfriend that has been my best friend for about 2 years.
oh, nice.
Um,
Yep.
just because she knew me when I was a Jehovah's Witness, and then she's known me. I had a pretty rapid. It was a controlled change, but it was a rapid change to like I'm
Mm.
gonna go figure out the world now, and so she knows both sides of that, which there's not many people that know both sides of that.
It's hard when you get yourself in a new relationship, having to go through. Oh, let me explain. Because the first thing they want to do is meet your family, and you go, yeah, that's not that good idea. Oh, why not? And it kind of comes like it's like your problem. But if people do understand your background, and that's why I like
Yeah,
the ex-Jehovah's Witness community, because you can speak the same language, and you can tell a story, and not have to explain it, and they get what you're on about, and they laugh because they go, "Oh, that happened to me." A lot of
yeah,
parallels I'm finding when talking to others.
yeah. She was good because she was raised LDS. She was a Mormon, but she left
Oh yeah.
when she was 12 or 13, and so she had that conservative Christian background. It was different than mine. But then
Mm,
when I would tell her things about being a Jehovah's Witness, uh, she trusted me, so she believed me. But then in a way, she was like she couldn't believe what she was hearing. And so there was
mm.
a couple YouTubers, Germ, that's got some videos on YouTube, and she saw some of his and was like, he has some stories that are just like yours. I can't believe it. They were 100% true. Everything was true. I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, I wasn't embellishing on that craziness. And she's like, so yeah, that having people that can understand it is definitely a help when you're leaving for sure.
Yeah, because sometimes you think it's too surreal, don't you? And you don't really think this is. You think the voices in my head are making up this stuff.
Yeah, I'm lucky to have her, and then my roommate, my kind of like my little brother. He left when he was 18, and I've had we connected. We've stayed in touch, but then when I left, we connected and picked right back up, and so
Yeah,
had a couple really strong people to help me out.
yeah. Well, funny enough, I had a bit of a story on last Sunday. I met my half sister that I'd been trying to track down, and I met her when I was 14. But it was I was trying to explain to her that I'm not very good at being a family. I'm not very good living in a family because I'm not used to one. So I said I'm going to really struggle to stay in touch with you. And it's not that I don't want to, but I just don't have that habit where we don't do family dinners and get-togethers. And I said, so I'm going to make a real effort, So let's book a time. Otherwise, it'll be 6 months down the track, and I've met her once and haven't sort of got
Yeah,
involved. It's so hard because it's, but like when you reconnect with somebody I'm 51, so what's that? 37 years ago. I met this lady once who's my sister, and it just feels like it's just a waste of a lot of energy that somebody you could have had in your life could have made a huge difference either way, and you just missed out. So it's nice that you can reconnect with. So is it your Sep's brother, or who was it?
no, I refer to him as my little brother. I met him 22 years ago,
Yeah.
um, and I'm best friends. Well, I was really good friends with his dad. His dad's an elder,
Mm.
and he left when he was 18. His parents told him either you keep going to meetings or you move out. They went to meeting on a Sunday the day he turned 18, so he moved his stuff out. And
Wow.
he, had a punk rock band, and did a bunch of stuff, and we always stayed in touch. He was never baptized, so he was kind of in that gray area. He just left,
Uh,
you know.
Wish I wasn't
And
baptized.
so, yeah, so he doesn't disfellowship or anything. So we stayed in touch. We hung out every now and then and things. And then when I left, um, we ended up moving in together a couple months after. So
No, that's cool. Yeah, just before we got online, a guy rang me, Neville Aiden, pretty sure it was his last name, and I would have been 23. So once again, that's a long time ago, isn't it? That's whatever it is, quite a few years ago, because I'm 51, so it's 28 years ago. And this guy went off the tracks. He was married at a young age, and he's separated with his wife. He just rang me, and because I saw him on Facebook, and then all of a sudden he decided to have a ring me, and he's telling me what's been happening in his life. You know, we weren't really close, but it was just so unusual to be able to reconnect with somebody after 28 odd years. But we're talking about the same stuff like it was yesterday, and the people we knew, and he just wants to catch up with, mayhem. But it still affects
yeah,
people. You can't get away from it. It's not abnormal. All right, I've got a boring question. Do you have any hobbies?
too many.
Ooh,
Um,
hunting and
I've
tramping.
I've cut them down. I have so many stuff that I was doing. My I mean, if you look at most of my website, anything I have on YouTube or Instagram, it says Jack of all trades, master of none.
Oh yeah.
Because I'm interested in a lot of stuff, but I'm also kind of bored easily. So I, find something, do it for a while, and then stop. But my ex father-in-law taught me how to do leather work, where
Ah,
actual tooling of the leather work, not just making things, but the artistic tooling, the carving and the beveling to make like a 3D picture on things. And
so
so I really do enjoy that, and that's what I like to do more of.
So, when I was a Jehovah's Witness, it was always hard finding the right size bag to put your Bible and your reasoning with the scriptures and your watchtowers. Did you make a bag ever, or was that before that time?
No, my father-in-law, I've known him since I was 7 or 8 years old,
Right.
and he actually taught leatherworking at a school I went to when I was in elementary school. And so I learned leatherwork from him for years and years and years while I was at JW. But I never made a bag. We made Bible covers.
Yeah.
I made a bunch of bookmarks and book covers for an international convention we went to in Estonia about 8 years ago.
Yep.
Stuff like that. But
Because I had one made. I had to laugh, but it was everyone was, oh, where'd you get your bag? And they used to have this commercial called Lands for Bags, and it used to be the same, but you probably wouldn't have seen that one. How long ago was it that you left the Jehovah Witness organisation? It was 18 months ago, wasn't it? Well, not even that longer.
so I stepped down. I was a ministerial servant, and I stepped down the beginning of September in 2019,
Yeah.
and then um, I about 2 weeks after I stepped down, I wasn't disfellowshipped or anything. I stepped down because of a disagreement I had with the way a situation was handled and by the elder body.
Yep.
And I just said, I'm not going to quit being a Jehovah's Witness, but I can't be in the leadership. I just can't do it
Mm.
because of this. And so I stepped down, and
They wouldn't have.
half of the elder body wouldn't even talk to me the next
That'd be
meeting.
right. They wouldn't have liked that.
And it was a hall where yeah, and I was treated in a way like I was already disfellowshipped. So within about 2 weeks and talking to some people, I'd already had some doubts and questions before that.
Mm.
And then the way the situation I talked about was handled, I was done anyway.
Mm.
So I was just like, you know what? If they're going to treat me that way, I'm just not going to go back. And I called them up and said, yeah, I'm done. So it was middle of September 2019.
I think it's like gold stars, the organisation, because every time when you first start out, the first job you're going to do is you get to be able to do a 5 minute talk. Then you get privileges along the way and roving mics, be able to sit at the back and look after the sound. And then you become an unbaptized publisher. And all along the way. So as soon as you get to because what do you become a ministerial servant, then you become an elder, and then you become a circuit overseer, and if you're lucky, you get to go to visit the Bethel. But when the organisation sees that you want to go backwards, I don't think they have a formula for that.
Yeah, they don't
They
like
go,
it.
you can't do that. And it's like turning your back on Jehovah. Don't do that because we'll punish you. It's a,
Well, my uncle even told me one time. He says he's always kind of he's still a ministerial servant,
mm,
but he when I told him I stepped down, he's like, "That's a shocker." He goes, "It's easier to get appointed than it is to step down."
wow.
Because yeah, I had to fight. I It was 3 meetings for me to finally tell them like, "No, I'm
Mm,
done." They kept telling me, "No, no, we're not going to tell the circuit overseer yet." And yeah, 3 different meetings. Finally, I'm like, "Guys, you tell him, or I have his number. I'll tell him
yeah.
myself."
Weird, isn't it? Oh, it's such a thing on it. Okay, let's go back into the question, see where it takes us. Okay, good question, this one. What's one thing you'll never do again?
Oh, well, uh, the answer that Rachel would tell me is never date an Aries
And
again.
Aries? Star signs.
But I'm not that much in. I'm not that much in. That was the first thing that popped to my head, but that's not what I would do.
Mm,
I'll never. Gosh, the one thing I know I'll never do. I will never ever be part of an organized religion
yeah,
again. I don't care what it is. It just doesn't make sense to me. Um,
yeah,
no matter how good they seem to start out, it never ends up
I
well.
know.
I think that's kind of a spirituality needs to be a personal journey if you're going to go that way, and it doesn't need to be controlled by a group and
Uh,
somebody's going to take advantage of it or use it to take advantage of someone else.
mm.
So I just don't ever see me being involved in that ever again.
Being involved in the ex-Jehovah's Witness community, I'm finding there's a few different types of people, and for me, I don't really care anymore about the Bible, purpose, or whether we got here from Adam and Eve. But then you get some people who seem to be still searching for the truth, or they call it the truth, or looking for God, or trying to interpret the scriptures. And it's sort of I think you're either in or out. I mean, I've just turned my back on the whole lot, and I probably rely more on fate, and whatever will be will be.
Mm-hmm.
And I quite like that. But did you have to? Do you still search for, like, do you still believe in the Bible, or how do you have a belief, or
I believe the Bible's a book. I don't believe it's the end all be all anymore, like I was raised
yeah,
to. Um, I think two of the big things is there's a what do you call it? A saying. I don't know who said it offhand, so I'm not going to try and attribute it to anyone, but it's not me
yeah,
saying it, which is the more you know, the more you know you don't
yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah.
So the smarter we get, the more we learn about how things work around us, we understand that there's no way I'm going to ever understand
Mm.
everything. And so then another thing that kind of goes with that I caught on too quick, which his name's Fifth.
Oh,
He's
he's,
got
oh,
an album. I
yeah,
think
we've
you've
had him on
talked
here. He's,
Heath. Yeah, so it's a line in one of his songs, which is where I heard it first. But I think he heard it from someone else too, which is just I'd rather have I'd rather have questions I can't answer than answers I
oh, I
can't
love that.
question.
Yeah,
And as soon as I started looking at the world
yeah,
like that, like I have a hard time believing there's not some type of intelligent
mm.
design, but I don't believe in the God of the Bible. I don't believe there's a God that's going to hold me accountable. There's something out there that's bigger than me that probably had a way to put me here.
Now, Darick,
How I
think
connect
about
with
this,
that,
mate. You're
I'm not
out
sure.
tramping in the wilderness, and you've got your new boots on, and you come across this beautiful cabin in the woods. Do you really think that it just got there all by itself? Did you use that example?
No,
So, what
heck
was the
yeah.
purpose of the cabin?
I was in a more arid area, so it was a house in
Oh,
the
all
desert.
right,
But
yeah.
yeah, yeah,
I
exact
reckon
same
that
thing.
answer for everything, isn't it? And so I'm just happy to use. Somebody built it
Uh
because they
huh.
needed some shelter, and I just happened to stumble across it. And what's the purpose of the?
Hmm.
What was the purpose of it? And it's like, oh, here we go again. I have a business networking company, and often I just blurt out I used to be a Jehovah's Witness, and I said, but it helped me with my sales techniques. Like you'd knock on somebody's door and you go knock knock, and they'd say they're not interested. And he said, when you knock on 100 doors and 100 people say they're not interested, you come up with a workaround. And the workaround used to be
Hmm.
Is it Jehovah's Witnesses you're not interested in, or is it religion? And most people will pick the easy one and they
Yep.
go, oh, religion. I said, well, I can appreciate that because wouldn't you agree that religion's responsible for a lot of the mayhem in the world? But don't worry, I'm not here to preach religion with you today. And it'd be like, oh, yeah, I've just sideswiped the I'm not interested. So then, instead of you got the, you know,
Got to you got to get past those
oh,
conversation
yeah, I
stoppers,
know.
Danny.
But I use them in business now and it's great, really, isn't it? It's like, what obstacle can I help you overcome
Yeah.
today? Oh. Okay, mate. So, other than the psychological stuff, because you haven't been out of the religion for too long, and I can only assume that you're still going through a lot of, um, a lot of thoughts. I mean, I've been out of it for 28 years, and just like I said just before this interview, I got somebody ringing me up I hadn't heard from since that time. So it keeps popping back into my life, and I can't get away
Yeah.
from it. And it's like, you said you've been through a divorce. I went through one as well. And people say, "Oh, how long did it take you to get over the divorce?" And I go, if you asked me 2 years out, I would say 2 years. If you asked me 5 years out, I'd say 5 years. But it'll probably take me about 12 years now. But ask me in 15 years. So it takes a lot of toll on your mind. So how do you? This question is, how do you recharge? But probably, how do you keep yourself sane from the thoughts that must be going through your head? Maybe another, like, what keeps you on the straight and narrow now?
Um, I credit. I wasn't gonna be involved in religion, but I always felt the thing that keeps me grounded, and I go back to I don't know how everything works, and I'm never going to claim to know how the universe works, but I've always been grounded
Yeah.
when I'm outside. I've always felt balanced when I'm outside. I love trees. I've always, growing up, we lived right next to the woods, and I'd go to the woods all the time. Um, I was on the RBC for, if you're not familiar with JW stuff, it
Oh,
was
yeah.
the
Yeah.
building committees in the U.S.
Yeah,
to
I did
build the
one.
kingdom halls. And it was back before there were limits on age. So I was 6'1" and 200 pounds when I was 12, 13 years old. So I was helping my uncles frame the kingdom halls all summer long from when I was just, 12 years old. But there was one time we were having our hall remodeled, and they just said, "Well, go to a neighboring congregation," because there was about 7 kingdom halls within a 10-minute drive. There's a lot of witnesses
Of
in the
course,
Salt Lake
opposition's
area.
there.
And one of my friends says, "Well, yeah." So he says, "What hall are you going to go to?" And I said, "Honestly, I said, this is one of the few Sundays I don't have a talk. I don't have to run the sound. I don't have to run the video because we were
Yep.
doing video at the time." I said, "You know what? I'm going to go to the High Church of the Uintas, which is our our
Ah,
mountain
yeah.
range up north of us is the Uinta Mountain Range." And so that's how I recharge. And the people that knew me, they knew that, oh, Darick needs to go
Mm,
camping. He needs to go out in the woods or else he's going to be a jerk for a
yeah.
while. So let him go do his thing. And then other people got really offended that I referred to it as the high church. But I'm just like, at the time, I'm like, it's Jehovah's creation. I'm not appreciating Jehovah. So now I'm pretty connected to my surroundings. And I found um, Noah Rasheta does a book, No
Yep.
Nonsense Guide to Buddhism. But it's more as Buddhism as a way of life, not a religion, just a way to be a better whatever you are. And that's kind of kept me on
Mm.
that path. And then I just try to stay
I love
connected with
nature.
nature, and that
Yeah,
seems
so
to
you'd
keep
have a
me
lot of
more
cold
balanced.
and snow where you are some time of the year. Do you tramp out in all seasons?
We get both. My favorite part is
Mm.
I love the fall,
Yeah.
the autumn time, but I kind of avoid being outside in the winter. We have like Utah's motto is the best snow on earth. I haven't skied since I was 12 or 13. I don't
Yeah.
like being out in the cold.
I,
Um, so
I
spring
went for
and
a
fall are
hike,
my favorite.
one walk. I normally take people up in the summertime. I thought I'd tramp up there in the wintertime. And there's this tin shed. It would literally be 3 meters by 2 meters, maybe a little bit bigger. And it had a fire in there. And I thought, oh, I'm so cold. And it was snowing and windy. And it was literally in the middle of nowhere. So I lit the fire. And then all the smoke started. The chimney wasn't working well. So the whole thing started filling up with smoke. And I thought, well, dilemma was suffocate or keep warm. So I just keep the fire going so the smoke would only be, and I was crouching down as low as I could. But I remember that night I had two sleeping bags, two pairs of pants on, and I was still cold. And I just got myself all kind of warm, and then I had to go to the loo. Like, oh, but yeah. Yeah,
That's
but
how it
I do.
always
I absolutely
works.
love getting out in nature, and we've got a real nice here in where I'm from, Christchurch, New Zealand. It's just got lots of tramps where you can go out for 3 or 4 hours and get to a hut, and normally you'll be there all by yourself. But I
Oh,
had sometimes the snow can change real quick, so we just had a whole lot of flooding here, ironically, and it's even washed out our main highway, highway, one of our bridges. So. Yeah, so that's what happens.
oh
All right,
wow.
a question. Oh dear, this is the mean question for an ex-Jehovah's Witness, but I've got to ask it because it's in the deck, and you can bypass it if you want. What? Okay, here's a goodie.
No, let's
What's
do
your
it.
favourite family holiday?
Oh, my favorite family holiday. So, like, we're talking what I would have referred to as
Well,
worldly
it's,
holidays now,
yeah, yeah, that's funny.
or like
Yeah,
family
holiday.
vacation. You
Yeah,
mean
I
like
think
family
I presume
vacation? Is
you
that what you mean?
didn't go off to Las Vegas or
Oh, okay,
anything.
okay. So I mentioned a bunch of states when I started, and I'm actually heading down there this month. Is My grandma was
Mm,
originally from Oklahoma, and I would go down there with her almost every summer for. Usually, I only got. She would go down there for 3 months. I would
yeah,
usually get to go with her for a month, and I really enjoyed going down there because it was. I look back and it's none of her family was witnesses, and it was just real good folks, country, slow
yeah.
down, slow life. Again, it was all nature. My grandpa had 200 acres
Wow.
out in the river bottom, and so I
Oh,
was there
that's
almost
cool.
every summer.
That's not too bad.
So,
Was it?
then before she passed away, I'd take her back there every year for 2 weeks. Yeah, the last 4 years she was around, we took her back every year. So,
Cool. This one's probably similar to the other questions, actually. If you could go back in time, what's one thing? Uh, I've got to reread this. If you could go back in time to change one thing, what would it be? So you can change one thing, go back in time. Very similar to a question we just had already. What would you change? Still be a minister or servant?
uh, well, if we're gonna go back in time,
Woo.
I'd probably go kill Hitler. But
My, yeah.
if I can do one
Funny
thing, right?
enough, one of my other questions was actually if you could have a meal with anyone, dead or alive, who would it be? And somebody answered that as Hitler and Jesus.
Well, mine would
Yep.
mine would be my grandpa, but since nobody knows him, the closest other thing
Oh,
would be
what's that
Anthony
name? What's
Bourdain.
that name? Where's that ring? That
So
what's the barrel on that one?
Anthony Bourdain, he wrote Kitchen Confidential, and he did No Reservations. He traveled all over, and he's had an outlook on life of just get out there, experience it,
Yeah.
meet everybody, do everything because you're here. I mean, I have memorial tattoos. He died a few years back, and I've got memorial
Ooh,
tattoos
worldly
up here that
worldly
are the same as
tattoos.
his. So
So
he's been a big
when did you get
influence.
those?
I'm pretty inked up in
Yeah, I
two
haven't got a
years.
tattoo
Yeah,
yet, but I remember my ex-wife at the time, and I was thinking about getting one, and I think we got a divorce about 2 months afterwards, so it was pretty pretty lucky escape. But we're trying to sit there. What would we put on it? Could make it a decision on what tattoo to put on. I'm not very good at that.
it was funny because I got left in September. I got my
Mm,
first tattoo in October, and it just so happened to be on the same day. I was
yeah,
baptized on October 29th, and my first
brilliant.
tattoo was on
There's some real
October
mean ones
29th.
on the ex-Jehovah Witness Facebook pages. Some people are getting some brilliant ones. I've seen some. Have you seen any of those popping up?
Oh yeah,
Yeah, no, they're real cool. Every now and
no,
again,
I'll
you
have to
just see
check it
one and you
out.
know what it means just by looking at it because they're an ex-Jehovah's Witness and they've made a real statement. But
Uh,
what's the craziest thing you've ever done? Podcast with Danny DeHeck? Hope not.
oh,
Well, it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be legal.
uh, cra- no, craziest thing I've probably ever done is I used to have
Oh yeah.
I've always had pretty fast cars, and I had one that I had a Lexus IS 300 that had a turbo on it, and it could make some
Phew.
Corvettes cry. And I had it up to about 140 on a
Yeah.
public highway. That's the craziest
I
and
used to have
dumbest thing
a
I've ever done,
R8
I
Holden with
think.
a, I think it was 6.3 litre engine, and I took that for a spin on a public highway, as you call it. It was 243 kilometres. So
Uh,
what's that work at it? Yeah, no, that'd be good. I
that's
want to see.
uh,
Yeah, it wouldn't go any
that's gonna
faster, the
be
stupid
close.
thing. Um,
That mine
oh,
puffed out. Yeah,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
150. So yeah, same speed. Yeah,
It was
yeah,
yeah.
150
The
miles
funny
an
thing is,
hour.
I used to have the Holdens. I think they call them something else in America, but they got the Chevy engine in them. Yeah,
GM had some Holden cars, so they called it the Pontiac Grand, or the it was when they
I
re-released the
actually
GTO.
videoed
It
it
was a
when I was
Holden,
doing it. It was nighttime, so I put
and then
I
Holden
held
and
my camera, phone on the speedo, and I just planted a boot, and you just watch it. I think it changed into fourth at 190, and you can see it change. It was, and the noise of it was pretty amazing. But when I think back, holding a camera up on the speedo when you're driving at that sort of speed, and it was late at night as well because and it was way out in the middle of nowhere. But boy, the thing, because I used to have my first Holden wasn't zooped up. The second one was a mid-range one, and then the R8 was had the racing expansion in it and everything. And when I took the second to last one for a spin, it didn't feel very good. It started to get a bit loose on the road, and it didn't feel safe. But this other car, the R8 Holden, just sank down on the road, and it felt like it wanted to go. That it just really it was set up beautifully, you know. So I sold
yeah.
it after that. Well, I sold it. I only kept it for 2 years, but it was just too scary, man.
Holden just went out. They just
Yeah,
shut down not
yeah,
too long ago, didn't they? Didn't Holden just that was sad because
yeah.
they
They used
built
to chew
some
through
nice
the
cars that
tires. The tires were like magnets on the
they had
road,
some nice.
but they rub out on the inside, and they were like New Zealand money, but probably about 500 US each, and they'd only last 20,000 k's, and you'd have to replace
Yeah,
the
I
tires.
I had a I
Whoa.
had a Porsche 944 for a couple of years, and the back tires were $500 a piece, and I burned through. They never lasted
Were
more
they
than
like
like six
300
seven
wide?
months. I would destroy them. It was
They'd
the
be,
I Yeah,
wow,
they
that's
were
amazing.
14 and a
Yeah.
half inches wide. So yeah, they were huge, but
Yeah,
the back rim
beautiful.
was 13
I love
inches.
looking at those
Yeah, they
tires.
were
Yeah,
huge
I've
for the
been in.
time.
I've only been in. Well, I've been in one racing Porsche. Porsche wasn't in a race car, but I hadn't ever felt the power of a Porsche until my mate put his foot down in this thing, and I'm just going whoa, because like
Oh
the big V8s are real heavy, and these things aren't heavy, but they
yeah.
just pull like a schoolboy, if you could say that. Anyway, we've got a common interest. We love cars, but I, I remember I've got a Suzuki Swift Sport now. I don't even think you have them in America, do you?
We had the Suzuki Swift for a while. It
Yeah.
was just a little
It's a
hatchback over here,
1400 turbo
I think.
thing. It goes quite
Yeah.
well, but it's not quite the same as V8. It always shock people because they don't realise how much power it got. But yeah. Anyway, what's three things that you would take with you to a desert island?
Oh well, my kukri, so
Woo.
big hunting knife for people that aren't familiar.
Yeah.
I spend a lot of time outdoors. So this is an easy one. My metal canteen and a big
That,
chunk of paracord.
uh, yeah, that's pretty
I guess
straightforward.
that's
Some
it.
people have had some funny answers to that question in the past. It always makes some said deck chair, a bottle of something, and suntan lotion. And I'm going, really? It's not a holiday.
I guess it depends on how long. Yes, yeah. I guess it depends on how long I'm stuck there. But I assume by that you
Yeah, I
mean
love
I'm
like those
stuck out there, and
programs on
that's all
TV.
I got to work with.
I'd like to
So
think I'd last for a long time, but I mean, I'd be straight into thinking I'm going to be here for 6 months at least and plan out, bigger picture stuff.
I I've seriously considered applying for that alone show, especially now that I'm not married.
Yeah, I
But I
think the
don't know
last
how
guy
many people
was,
would go for that one. But like the first guy that did that, he was out there for almost a
yeah.
year on
No,
season
they
one.
get
I haven't
crazy and they
watched
just
the
seem to get in
last
with
one.
it. I mean, and then there's obviously two of them who are competing against each other and not knowing it
Yeah.
really. Unusual one. This one. What
Yeah.
characteristics do you admire in others? Does that resonate with you?
Uh, my big thing is I honesty. I hate just I've told everybody I spent too many years kind of pretending to be
Mm.
something I wasn't fully committed to. So now I just kind of say it how it is. And for a long time, even when I was a Jehovah's Witness, I just said, I'll never say
Yeah.
something behind your back I wouldn't say to your face. And I can say some pretty bad stuff, but it's just, if I'm saying it, it probably needs to be said, unfortunately. But yeah, I like to know where I stand with people, and pretty much everybody knows where they stand with me right away.
Yeah.
That's kind of the way I prefer it.
I think it's good.
So
I
people are
think
just honest and
with
upfront.
when you leave, often because your family discommunicates you, you're sort of stunned a wee bit. But then you think, well, out of respect for your family and other people that still believe in it, you keep your mouth shut. These days, I've sort of changed my focus. I've my first podcast when I was talking about being an ex-Jehovah's Witness, I upset two people that aren't in the religion anymore because I mentioned their first names, and if people know me, they'd probably figure out who I'm talking about. And now they don't talk to me, and it's like, oh, well, and they're not even in the religion, and this because they
Mm.
didn't like me speaking out. But I think they said, oh, you should take it off, and I go, no, I don't want to. I'm sick of not, saying how it affects me or anything.
Yeah, I just decided I'm not gonna pretend about anything. I am
Yeah,
what I am, and if you don't like
I think
it,
you,
I'm
you
I'm sorry,
I think you get
but it's
judged a
just I
lot when
don't
you're in the
don't
JW
have
thing.
time for it
So
anymore.
that's our 12 questions. But I mean, like so our common interest is obviously
Yeah,
if people listening to this, they probably figured out we both were ex Jehovah's Witnesses. I'm about 28 years out now, and you're only really just over a year. Is that right? Or have I got that right? Well, not even that. 10 months. Yeah. So well done, you.
yeah, about a year and a
If you were
half.
giving
So yeah,
someone advice on who are thinking about leaving the Jehovah's Witness organisation, and they're sort of there's a fancy word for them, isn't it? PIMS or PI.
oh, yes, you have the PIMO and POMO, so physically in, mentally out,
Yeah, I've never
and
really
physically
understood
out,
that myself, but
mentally
some
out.
people
Yeah,
must obviously sit there as a
but
dilemma,
yeah.
a conundrum, whether they should leave or not. What advice would you give them? Is there life outside the organisation?
Yeah, my that's the thing. Jillian, she's got a YouTube channel, and she was interviewing some people. I actually just was doing a little short video today that it made me think about something, which was just that it's the thing that really bugs Jehovah's Witnesses after you leave is
Hmm.
if you're out there and you're happy,
Yeah.
because that's not what's supposed to happen. That's not what you're told is going to happen. And
Yeah.
life isn't easy. It's not a cakewalk. I told you this week it was crazy. I mean, I had a storage unit broken into, and I had probably $15,000 worth of tools stolen. Um, it's been a rough week, but
Yeah.
overall, where my
Yeah.
life is, I have no complaints. I literally have no complaints.
Yeah.
I'm not mad for how I was raised or anything. So my advice is for me, what I did is I had questions for a couple years ever since my grandpa passed
Yep.
away for about 2 years before I left. And once I got treated the way I was when I stepped down as a ministerial servant, I just started looking at other religions, other beliefs, what people outside the
Mm-hmm.
religion were saying about the religion instead of
Mm.
anything that was just fed from the governing body. And what did it for me was I had shoulder surgeries and I couldn't work anymore physically
That's a
for a
cool
while.
job, I
And so
must
I'd
say.
become a private investigator.
Yeah.
And
Have you investigated me?
I enjoy it. And uh, well, when when the governing body wouldn't answer the
Brilliant.
subpoenas of the Australian Royal Commission, I was like, I've delivered subpoenas to the
Yeah.
top, elders at the Mormon Church,
Mm.
and they answer the subpoenas, and I'm like, you're God's organization on earth. You're not going to answer a subpoena, but like you're telling me I had to register for military service, knowing full well. I mean, when I was a kid, that was when they were talking about
Oh,
bringing the draft back
wow.
for one of the wars over in Iraq. And it's like I knew full well as I was
Yeah.
registering that I could get drafted and I was going to go to prison.
Mm.
I'd seen all these brothers in Korea that done it. And I'm like, I'll answer that, but you guys are the top guys in the world. You won't go talk to the court. If you got God's blessing,
Yeah.
you should be able to go in there and tell that judge what for and who cares. And so then I really started looking into it and was just like, you know what? I'm
Mm.
not going to do this. So just stop and look
Mm.
at everything you can with an open mind because you don't realize it till you're out, but you have a pre-prejudice when you think that everything outside of the
Yeah.
organization is influenced by Satan. So as soon as you take that away, you can learn a lot from a lot of people because you're not thinking that they're trying to trick you by
Because
being, from Satan or whatever.
if you're
So
talking
as soon as I did that, I just
negatively or
learned.
questioning the organisation, you can get labelled apostate pretty quick. Like my mum rang me. She hadn't talked to me for 2 years, and she said to me
Mhm.
when we was talking about how she has watched all these YouTube videos, and she's listened to them all. She reckons, and I'm thinking, oh, there's a good one of Lloyd Evans there that I'm going to send her, and then there's another guy called Dan. He's on our the Six Nations. He's part of that, or it's some radio show in America. Forgotten who it is, but anyway, he had a real good video that came out yesterday, and so I've sent that to my mum as well. And I thought, well, she's watched all these videos, but the problem is they just literally shut off, and it's just like this big wall. Anything negative, they don't want to. They just turn their back on it. They can't handle it, and it's really weird. So you're sitting here trying to reason, and then you think, oh, it just doesn't
Yeah.
make any. And it's just such a interesting protection mechanism that they've been brainwashed with. Um, and it's just like literally before I sent my mum a text today and just talking about affidavits, and I thought, well, wonder what would happen if people like us decided to take the elders that discommunicate us from the church legally, and for like in the workplace, if you treated somebody really bad, you would be able to sue your employer. But how can three men sit in a room and tell you that you're basically no good,
Hmm.
and then say that we're going to discommunicate you from your family and make your family not talk to you and not be held accountable? And the only time you want to, I'm thinking, well, why don't people like me decide to take the organisation to court? And then I think, well, why take the organisation to court? Why not take the three men that treated me this way to court? And then I'm thinking, I'm just, you think of these processes along the way that you think, well, why are they allowed to do this? Why are they allowed to treat you? Because any other thing in the world that we live in, you're not allowed to. But all of a sudden, because it's got religion flag flying over it, they can treat you like,
Yeah.
and they cause you a lot of harm. Yeah, so,
Yeah. No, you're dead on. My response to that is I'm not disfellowshipped. I left and I told there was an elder that I'd known in my hall. I'd been a ministerial servant in
mm,
that hall for 10 years, and there was an elder that was like my dad. And I told him, I said, look, this is why I'm leaving. I'm done. And I'll continue to support my wife and my son in the religion. And they can make their own choice. My son had just turned 18 and he was baptized already. And I said, but I'm not going to have anything to do with it. I don't want to talk about it. And I intended to stay in my marriage, but that ended a
too
couple
much in
months
it.
later. My wife was very, very into it. She just, totally
Amazing, yeah.
pioneer all the way. Just that's all she loved. That's all she did. So it was hard for her. So after I moved out, they tried to, you know, talk to me and have me come in to. He even tried to call and have me have a cup of coffee. And I asked him, I said, is it just going to be you or are you bringing two friends? And
Yeah.
he actually was like, well, what do you mean? I said, you know exactly what I mean. And my response to him was, you're right.
Mm,
And the thing is, as much as it hurts me to say this, is if I
yep.
was in that situation, I would
Yeah.
sue the branch and I would sue the three brothers. And I essentially told him that. I said, look, I walked away.
Mm.
I don't see you as an
Yeah.
authority figure in any way, shape, or form now. I never did anything while I was in the religion to
Mm.
merit being disfellowshipped. I told you that I'm leaving, and I do not give you the authority to tell my
Mm.
friends and family that they have to not associate with me. And I said,
Mm.
so here's the deal. You can do whatever you want, but I said, I would strongly suggest that before you ever try and do a judicial committee or you try and
Mm.
send me a certified letter saying I'm disfellowshipped, I said, you better contact
Yeah.
Brooklyn Legal just like you guys had to do for the situation I told you about. And when you contact Brooklyn Legal and say this guy has an attorney on
Mm.
retainer, and if we disfellowship him, all of us are going to court, I said, you better be
Mm.
ready to fight because I'm not, no one's going to tell. If my family
Mm.
chooses that on their own, which the majority of them have, a few haven't, but the
Yeah.
majority of them, they treat me like I'm disfellowship. But that's their choice now. I'm not going to let the organization tell my friends and family
I think
that
it's true though, isn't it?
without having a fight.
Yeah. I think it's
So
true. Yeah. It's
it's
definitely
been a year and a half,
you don't give them any power, isn't
whatever.
it? It's like just they're just men, and they, it's, I just think I've been through heaps of judicial committees. I probably had 10 of them in my time. I got kicked out twice, and I remember bawling my eyes out, sitting at the back of the Kingdom Hall, and I think they must have thought I was going to do myself harm. So then they brought me back in after 4 months, and then 6 months later I'm out again. It's like, oh my god! But it's just really weird, like, yeah, because I mean at the time they mean so much to you, these elders, and I was like, I got a letter,
Yeah.
handwritten letter, put in our letterbox, and I'm reading. Yeah, and I thought, oh, stuff this. And I thought, I don't
Oh,
want
yeah,
this. And I
I
thought,
saw
well,
your
they've
video.
upset me
Yeah.
because I was actually panicking because my partner was opening it. Oh, I wonder what it says. And I said, I want to know if it's from my mum or it's been intended for me. Is it her reaching out to me, some form, whatever it was. And I thought, no, stuff this. So it was just a random letter. Managed to find my private investigator, you'd be proud of, managed to find her husband that wrote the letter because she put her name on it, and he's a justice of the peace, and he obviously marries people. And then I found their home address. What else did I find out about him? His phone number, and so I rang him up. And first of all, I got the letter, jumped over the fence at the Kingdom Hall, taped it on the front door, and then videoed it on a Facebook Live. And then I rang up the guy a week later, basically saying, "Look, I don't have anything to do with you
Yep. Good
guys,
on
and
you.
please, this letter upset me." And I said, "I've had two people in my family actually commit suicide," and I said, "When you send a letter like that to people, are you not concerned that that could be a trigger for me and push me over the edge? Because that's the power of your letters. You could upset people. You don't know who you're delivering these letters to, and you're doing it all in the name of God, but you actually upset me." And I said, I will put you on the do not list cool thing if you give me your address. And so I told him his address, told him, where he lived. And I said, we can investigate stuff too, mate. And the funny thing is, the only reason I'm kicked out of the organisation is because every time I did something wrong, I ran to the elders and told them about it. And then they put me through a case. I said, my brother, which is Ricky Charlesworth, he's in your
Hmm.
congregation. Now, he's an alcoholic. And I said, I know you've talked to him about his drinking problems. He's got done for DIC, so he's lost his license, drinking charge. And I said, and you still let him in there? And I said, I still know he has a drinking problem. So I said, rather than being a liar, I wanted to be truthful, like we were taught. And but you still let him remain. So I said, I don't know who's better, the one in or the one out. But yeah, and then I had the privilege of asking him, "You must be freaking out
Yeah.
at the moment with the all the stuff going on in Australia." And he goes, "Oh, what do you mean?" I said, "Do you know the 1100 cases of people that have had child molestation, the whole nine yards, and the organisation never once went to the authorities about it." I said, now they have to hand over all their records. I said, that must be, it happens in all organisations. And I said, but I'm not part of any organisation that has any of that going on in it. Yeah, but when I was talking to the guy, nothing,
Right.
there's no leverage. There's no, I'm getting through to him or I'm not making any difference. And it's just a waste of time, isn't it? But yeah,
Well, the tough part is at the worst, or at the very least, the least innocuous part of that, it would be
Mm.
if they don't know that it could trigger you, and they're just doing it because they don't think about that far ahead, because that's not what they're trained in the kingdom
Yep.
ministry or in our, then the theocratic book at the end. But the worst case scenario is, you know, you're when you're taught those things, when you're taught to talk to people at the doors, you're actually taught to, if someone tells you something that's bad, a loved one has died or something like that, you offer
Yeah.
them hope. So if they're triggered, you're hoping that then they reach out to you and want you to, teach them more. So, it goes from being, hopefully it was just somebody not thinking and just writing addresses, or worst cases, it's almost like trying to get a trigger, getting someone's feelings riled up
I'm
so that you
shocking
can
at the
then
moment. If
offer them a
anyone
hope
ever
to go
tries to sell
down
me
the path.
something or push me down some road, I just say in a very mundane voice, I'd rather shoot myself in the face than listen to that. Sorry. And oh, that's a bit drastic. And I go, yeah, I know. Yeah. All right, mate. Hey, it's been a lovely to have you on the What the Heck podcast. And I really thank you for sharing your story. And I know you've got a lot of things that have gone in your life, and it's probably not always the best idea to get on a public area and talk about it, but I'm glad you did, because I'm sure you'll help others who listen on.
Yeah, I'm trying a little bit. I've set up. I've only got
Good
about
stuff.
4 videos up, but I set up a YouTube channel just on that, and it's just
Yeah.
got some truck. I call them truck talks. They're only about 10 minutes long right now, and I'm gonna do some. I used to do Sunday sermons, so I've been working on a few things to talk about, but I'm not really the ex-Jehovah's Witness. It's
Yeah.
more just, if you've left some type of high control religion and now you've left and are
So
looking
just
for something
before,
else, how to not just
uh,
spiral, how to find
we
something else. So
when we got on here, I
I
asked
just
you what
go
your
by
last name
heat.
is, and you just said you've just
Oh, God.
changed it back. So how do people find you? What's your YouTube channel? I'll put notes in this.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
my YouTube channel is Heathen Humanist. My thing was, if I stepped down as a ministerial
Mm.
servant, I thought, you know what, if they're going to treat me like a heathen, I'm just going to be one. So that's what I do.
Yep.
Um, so I'm Heathen Humanist on Twitter as well, and on Instagram. And then it's on, I don't do a whole lot on either of those. I'm mainly
No,
just
cool.
doing the videos on YouTube and then sharing links on them. So I tend to also, there's quite a few
I've done the
playlists on
same.
there that are other XJWs that I've built kind of a playlist of, if
Yeah.
you have this question, then you can look at these couple of videos. And because the other reason I'm not in the XJWs, there's so many out there. Like you
Yeah.
mentioned Lloyd Evans, that he was so helpful because it was just, here's the facts and do with it what you will. He's not really negative towards anyone unless they deserve it. And
Yeah.
so I think his way of
He's
doing things,
uses
him and
what this thing
James,
that the
just
Jehovah's Witnesses
helped
don't
me a
use
lot
very
when I
much, and
first
that's
left.
logic. Yeah. Excellent, mate. Well, if you are listening to this,
Yeah.
and if you follow the link just below the
Yeah.
video, you'll see this goes to Hek.com, which is my website, and I have show notes so you can actually listen to all the words. And at the bottom of this, I'll put all the contact details to Darick's Twitter and YouTube account, so you can click on it if you can't find them. But yeah, absolutely awesome, mate. Thanks for being on here with us today, and that's it. Ending.